What's going on, guys? Today I'm here to bring you another one of my 2014 WCQ H.A.T format deck profiles. The deck I want to show off today is Bujinsworn or Bujin Lightsworn. It's a really cool and interesting concept of a deck, and what I'll say right off the bat is how a lot of people know Bujin as a control deck. If you come into that with that mindset, then this probably is going to look really off to you guys, as Bujinsworn as a whole is actually a combo deck that utilizes a little bit less of the slow grindy game that Bujin has, and more so on the powerful Xyz monsters that this deck can play, as well as just in general being able to utilize Soul Charge, which is a card that, Bujin normally would not play. And overall, it's just a really cool, powerful concept of a deck, and I've been having a ton of fun playing it. I've shown it off in a few replays in the past, and there's actually a lot of different ways you can play this. There's some versions that don't even play Yamato, because if your main plan is to try to make as many Xyz as possible, then you don't really want to be playing the slower cards that you'd just be overlaying with anyways. But you guys will see the list that I'm playing. I've tested a lot of different versions of this, and this build is going to be 40 cards, though I will say that this deck can very easily play over 40 cards, and I just wanted to kind of give you guys a shell of the deck, and I'll talk about some changes and things that I might make in the future, as there have been a couple things that I've liked or not liked quite as much, but overall, it's a really cool deck, so let's get straight into it. So starting off with the monsters, we play 3 copies of Photon Thrasher. This is obviously one of your best extenders that the deck can produce. It's just a free special summon while you control no monsters. It's a level 4 light, and while it's the only monster that you control, it's able to attack, and it has 2100 attack, so very powerful card there. And after that, let's get into the Bujin cards. So how I said that some builds don't play any Yamato, I think it's still important to play Yamato, but I'm only going to play 2 copies. And how I mentioned that, you're trying to Xyz summon a lot, usually if you see something like your Photon Thrasher, you're going to want to see basically any other level 4 to start getting into your Xyz monsters, just because there generically are a lot of very good light ones and things of those sorts. For example, the Bujin Kagetsuchi is very good, though it can't be made with the Thrasher, but there are things, for example, like the Bujin Tsukiyomi that needs specifically lights, and that will be able to help you fill your graveyard as well as draw you into more cards. So getting into that, usually when you see your Thrasher, you're going to want to pair it with any other light, and so a lot of times you aren't really ending on Yamato, but you want to still have it in case your hand is a little bit slow and you do need a turn or 2 to set up. It's also a really good card once you've already established your graveyard, and then you can kind of, in a weird way, play the slower grind game if need be. So I think 2 is really important. You're able to get it back off of Soul Charge if need be, as well as bring it back off of things like your Bujin Carnation. So 2 I think is completely fine. After that, 1 copy of Bujin Mikazuchi. Honestly, out of the Bujin names, this has probably been the one that comes up the least, but it's still kind of necessary to play. When one of your Beast Warrior type Bujins is destroyed by battle or card effect, you're able to special summon this. This is your Searcher for Carnation, which is very good, and obviously you need to control this card when you would be searching for it to resolve. After that, 1 copy of Bujin Harume. This one is really good, and honestly, this is probably one of the few cards I would say I would want to play a second copy of. You're able to banish a Bujin monster from your graveyard to special summon it, so it's an extender, as well as when it's destroyed by your opponent by battle or card effect, while you both have a hand, you can make so you discard a card and force your opponent to discard a card. It's also, a 2000 beater, so it's really nice, and just having an extra extender that's free versus like the Mikazuchi only gets it to be able to summon itself when, I guess I should say, when one of your other Bujin Beast Warriors is destroyed by battle or card effect, is very nice. And then lastly, I'm actually playing 1 copy of Bujin Arasuda as well. This is kind of another extra extender. It's a little more conditional, similar to Mikazuchi, but this one, I'll just pull it up here so we can read it. It says, if a Bujin monster in your graveyard or face-up side of the field is banished except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position, and then once per turn during the end phase, if a Bujin card was added from your deck to your hand, except by drawing it while you controlled this face-up card, you can draw one card, then discard one card. So what's kind of cool about that is if you had a Bujin in graveyard that was, say, destroyed or milled off of one of your other cards that you'll see here in the bit, then you were to, for example, go and summon your copy of Harume by banishing one, you're then able to go for Arasuda, and Arasuda also sort of works as another copy of Yamato in a weird type of way. For example, if you go and have Arasuda on the board and you activate something like Tenki and add one of your Bujin monsters, then if this is still face up during the end phase, you'll be able to draw a card and discard a card, so really cool there. Next up, we play only one copy of Crane. It's basically like Honest for your Beast Warrior Bujins. The reason we only play one is because it's searchable, but also because, again, we're not really ending on Yamato all the time, and we're more so ending on the Xyz monsters, and with that being said, we do play Honest because of all the light monsters, and so really you only need the one copy. This is a card that I've considered playing two of, but there definitely are hands where you aren't seeing a lot of Bujin monsters, or for example, how you're going for that Bujin Tsukiyomi, so when that's the case, you're just discarding it anyways, so it feels kind of pointless to play too many of that. But with that being said, obviously we are playing Honest, that you'll see here in a minute, but we are also playing a copy of Bujin Sinew. This is basically going to be your Honest or Bujin Crane, but from graveyard, so that's also another reason. So between the three that I mentioned, we are basically playing 3 copies of Honest or 3 copies of Crane, so really cool card. I'll pull this one up as well since it's not as common. It says, during either player's damage step, if a Beast Warrior type Bujin monster you control battles an opponent's monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard. That monster you control gains attack equal to the current attack of the opponent's monster it's battling until the end of the damage step, and if it does, all battle damage your opponent takes from that battle is halved. So again, it's very similar to the Crane, though at the same time, it can be activated from graveyard, which is sort of a benefit, especially if you have, say, the Crane in hand and the Sinew in graveyard. It just adds extra layers to your end board. After that, one copy of Hair, it's like decent and you want to have it there, but it's not necessarily needed, especially because, again, with things like Bujin Carnation, you're able to sort of recycle these things when need be, and same with one copy of Turtle, though I would say Turtle more than Hair I'd consider running a second copy of, but so far the 1-1-1-1 ratio has been pretty good, but there is again a consideration to run a second Crane or a second copy of Turtle. After that, for the Lightsworns, we just play 5 of them. We play 3 copies of Raiden. Raiden's just the best Lightsworn name, being a level 4 light tuner that can once per turn mill 2 cards from the top of your deck, and then during the end phase mill 2 cards as well. And after that, we also play 2 copies of Wolf. Wolf is just, when it's sent to the graveyard from the deck, you're able to special summon it. Some builds will play 3 of this. I think 3 is way too bricky. It's nice to have at least 2, for example, when you mill 1 off of some of your Lightsworn cards like a Raiden, but it's also good because you're actually able to search this off of Tenki, so when you have your Solar Recharge in hand plus a Tenki, you don't always have to go for just the Bujin cards. You can actually search this and then use Solar Recharge and kind of get your grave and hand filled up a bit more, which is very nice. And the last 2 monsters we play are obviously the 1 copy of Honest, because light is more of a focus around this deck, and then also 1 copy of Zephyros the Elite. This is here just as an extra extender that can also help you recycle some of your cards. For example, if you have a Harume on the board, you're able to bounce the Harume, summon this, and then summon the Harume again if you have things in graveyard, and now you have 2 level 4s, or it can recycle things like your Tenkis, which are very important as well. And that rounds out the monsters. For the spell cards, we are obviously playing 3 copies copies of Tenki to search any of your Beast Warriors, and just, give them a little bit of an attack boost as well. And 3 copies of Solar Recharge, being able to discard a Lightsworn, and then draw 2 cards, and then send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So this card is one of the cards you want to see really early on, especially to help you find your soul charges if you don't have it, as well as fill your graveyard for any of those cards that necessarily need it. For example, getting something like your hares or turtles or sinew in graveyard. And speaking of the consistency, how I mentioned 3 copies of Upstart, this could easily be swapped out for some of those cards that I've mentioned that I would consider swapping. For example, you could maybe play like a second copy of Crane, a second copy of Turtle, and a second copy of Harume if you really wanted to. There's a bunch of other things that you can really swap out. I just wanted to make this deck as consistent as possible. There's also cool plays with Bujin Tsukiyomi that we'll talk about in a little bit. I know I keep bringing it up, but that card basically will have you discard your hand and draw 2 cards. So there's a lot of times where I'll just have these in hand and I'll still have enough to make a rank 4. So I'll end up just setting these, discard instead of, potentially 2 or 3 cards, just discard 1 card, draw 2, and then activate these because they were set. And then at that point, I'll have somewhere between like 3 and 4 cards in hand and I can keep going. So I do sort of like the Upstart for that reason. After that, I did say this is a Soul Charge deck, so having 3 copies of Soul Charge just to make some of your plays a lot better. It also helps for your grind game as you're able to bring back a lot of those 4s that would go to graveyard. It can get you into your Yamato if you need be, or just get you into as many bodies so you can make a synchro play with, say, your copy of Raiden or something along those lines, but I don't think Soul Charge really needs that big of an explanation. After that, only 2 copies of Carnation. This is a card that you in theory could play 3 of, but I think 2 is honestly like perfect because until you get your graveyard and your banish zone of Bujin set up, it's not really going to do too much. So that's why I think 2 is completely fine. You'll see it when you can search it off of your Mikazuchi or just later in the game if you draw into it. Ideally, it's not great if you end up milling these, which is why I say you could play 3, but I've been liking 2 so far. And after that, just a couple one-ofs. 1, Charge of the Light Brigade to search any of your Lightsworn monsters. 1 copy of Rhoda, again, just to search stuff like your Photon Thrashers or your copies of Raiden. And then 1 copy of Foolish Burial, just a very good card to send Wolf or any of your Bujin names. Then I do play a couple traps. I play 2 copies of Phoenix Wing Windblast and 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill. This has been like all right for me. Part of me wants to play the 3rd Wing Blast, but I've also considered playing the Bujin trap card, the Regalia. That one pretty much either returns one of your banished Bujin monsters to the graveyard, or it will add one of your Bujin monsters in graveyard to your hand. So that's a really good card, so I'd almost consider playing that as well. But so far, this ratio has been very solid for me, though again, I think the 3rd Wing Blast, if I take out the upstarts and play over 40, is one of the first changes I would make. That is it for the main deck. In terms of another thing, some people for the traps will play things like Vanity's Emptiness. I personally like to side Vanity's Emptiness specifically because post-side, you're able to, first off, knowingly go first if you had lost the first game, and that way you're able to Spark Lock. You'll see in the extra deck when we get into that here in a second, that Spark Dragon is a card that this deck can make with any of the 4s plus a Raiden, so that's really nice. But moving into the extra deck, 1 copy of Bujin Kagetsuchi. When it's summoned, you're able to mill the top 5 cards of your deck, which obviously will fill your graveyard. It also gains a little bit of attack boost based on how many of different Bujin cards get milled off of that, but that's a little less relevant. And then it also can protect your Beast Warrior type Bujin monsters, very similar to, say, like 101's effect by detaching a material. 2 copies of Bujinte Susanoo. Honestly, I'd consider cutting one of these, sort of. Like, it feels bad to only play 1, but in all the testing I've done, 1 has come up almost all the time, but 2 has never come up for me. I think it's important to have it as an option for your copies of Bujin Carnation, though you do have other cards you can use with that. And I guess real quickly, just to summarize, because I didn't really say, the Bujin Carnation says if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, target 1 Bujin monster in your graveyard and 1 of your banished Bujin monsters. Special summon both targets. They cannot be used for an Xyz summon of an Xyz except for a Beast, Beast Warrior, or Wing Beast. So obviously these are just some of your better targets to actually go into, and this is a searcher that can also just attack all your opponent's monsters, so it is nice to have it as an option. After that, we play 1 copy of Constellar Omega, just a really good card to play through back row, 1 copy of Black Ship of Corn to be able to get over really difficult things, or the Hands is a good prime example, or Zen Mains, and inflict 1,000 damage to the opponent. 1 copy of 101, 1 copy of Direwolf. This card is really, really good. Again, going back to Carnation, Carnation isn't once per turn, so there are times where I've activated Carnation, brought 2 Bujins back, made this, used this, popped itself in an opponent's other card, and then activated a second Carnation and been able to go into another one of those Bujin Xyz monsters, so that's really cool. 1 copy of Starliege Paladynamo. This card basically, it needs 2 light monsters, and once per turn you detach 2 Xyz material from it, and you target an opponent's face-up monster, and you change the attack of that monster to 0, negate its effects, and then if this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card, by battle or card effects, you're able to draw a card. It was between this and Heartland Draco, and I just found that I wanted something that could clear monsters a little better, though Heartland Draco is nice because it can attack directly. I found that sometimes just getting even the extra draw at times is also very good, and just there's a lot of problematic monsters that if you're not going to finish the game, then this just comes up more than the Heartland Draco, so I have been liking that a lot. 1 copy of Exciton, the 1 copy of Bujinte Tsukiyomi. This card is honestly just so good. I usually make this almost every turn 1. It has 2300 defense, so it's really hard to get over, and I'll pull it up here so you can see it. It needs 2 light monsters. It says once per turn, detach 1 Xyz material from this card, send your entire hand to the graveyard, minimum 1, and if you do, draw 2 cards, and when this card you control while face up leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can target level 4 Beast Warrior Bujin monsters in your graveyard up to the number of Xyz material this card had on the field, special summon those targets, and you can only control 1 of it. So just a really good way to kind of clear your hand, draw 2 cards, and also it has a little bit of recursion if need be. This card has been so good for me. After that, 1 copy of Lavavel Chain. This card actually comes up more for me to actually stack the deck than the send, but being able to say send your Zephyros, or send a copy of Wolf and have an extender, or just send any of your Bujin names is also very good. 1 copy of Dweller, 1 copy of Cowboy. This could also, again, be swapped out for Heartland Draco if you really wanted to. 1 copy of Rhapsody and Berserk, and lastly, the copy of Stardust Spark Dragon. Other Xyz that I've kind of considered have been like Bujinki Amaterasu, which is the Bujin Xyz that needs 3 material, though I feel like a lot of times that is a little extra of commitment. I've also considered Tiger King, just being able to set your Tenkis, as well as be able to negate cards, but I found that in terms of what I already had in the extra deck, it didn't really accomplish anything that wasn't something the deck could viably do on its own. For example, the Starliege Paladynamo is a negate, so that kind of is the same thing as the Tiger King, as well as Paladynamo just needs lights versus Tiger King specifically needs Beast Warriors, so I found Paladynamo was coming up more. And then the other card that I would honestly highly suggest also trying is a copy of Daigusto Emerald, just being able to put resources back and draw a card. I find that sometimes this deck can run out of gas after like 2 or 3 of your own turns, so that is also something kind of key. And also, one other card that you could try in the main deck that personally I side is the copy of Mind Control. Since this deck is mostly, level 4s, it's good to be able to just take an opponent's monster and start kind of doing your combo in case you open a little slow, but honestly, the deck has been performing really, really well for me. It's a ton of fun to play, and I definitely suggest you guys try it out and just kind of mess with it, because this is a deck that not that many people have actually given a shot, and there's a lot of different versions. I've personally tested like chaos versions and stuff like that play like the baby light and dark dragons, so that's also really cool. And really, the deck is super versatile. It's a ton of fun to play. I don't know if I'm going to post it before or after this, but I do have a clip of me just kind of comboing off with the deck, so, you know, definitely be on the lookout for that in case I do post it after this goes live. And anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to leave a like on it, comment any questions or videos you want to see in the future, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified anytime I put a new video out, share this video with your friends, and anyways guys, I will see you in the next video.